Welcome to this LinkedIn Live today. So what do a maintenance manager, a tech recruiter, a business developer, and an entrepreneur have in common? And what do a Swede, a Hungarian, an American, a Finn, a Dane, and a Serb have in common? And what do companies like Vattenfall Eldistribution, Lime Technologies, and Sony Startup Acceleration Program, and VATIs Common Ground have in common? Well, these are the topics that we are going to talk about the diversity and inclusion and transform companies to become more profitable. So, you know, this month we are celebrating the European Diversity Month. And that is why I'm having this LinkedIn Live here with you. Because we need to raise awareness of the importance of diversity and inclusion in our workplaces and in society throughout the world. And workplace diversity needs to be one of the top priorities for any employer in Europe, but also in the whole wide world. And we need to create inclusive environments where employees can be themselves and where they are valued for their differences and everyone's talents are used. So I want to welcome you to this roundtable discussion and dialogue. And I would also like to welcome my panelists, the participants for this dialogue, which are Eva Boynton from Lime Technologies. Let's see if we have Eva here. I will add you to the stream. Hello, Eva.
Hi.
Welcome.
So happy to be here.
Welcome. So, and I will just continue to welcome Martin Horvath from Vattenfall Eldistribution. Hi, Martin. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
Hello, hello. And then we have Jacob Nielsen, who is you're doing great many stuff, but you're also representing the Sony Startup Acceleration Program here in Europe. So every one of you, great welcome to this LinkedIn Live. And so we are going to talk about diversity and inclusion in the workplace. But first, I would just like to invite you, Eva, if we start with you, what do you do at Lime Technologies? Just a short introduction.
I'm a part of the people and culture team. I focus on recruitment operations, tech recruitment in particular, and of course I head the equality initiatives at Lime.
Yeah, great, thanks. And Martin, what do you do at Vattenfall Eldistribution?
I work as a maintenance manager for transformer station and local networks for all Sweden. That's what I do.
Yeah, and you also work with diversity and inclusion, right?
That's right. A lot.
A lot.
within the company,
yeah.
And also in my group especially.
Yeah, great. We will listen to you later on. And Jacob, welcome. So,
thank you very much, Eva.
Yeah. And where are you at right now?
So I'm an external consultant. I'm an expert in business development and innovation. I'm calling myself innovation agent, but I'm actually working a lot with coaching and business development of people in large companies, large corporations, but also leaders, entrepreneurs who often become business leaders. And I'm super focused on sustainability and equality, diversity.
I love it. Thank you. So we have Pushpa here, Damadev. Hi all, he says. So just, I would like you to, if you're listening to this broadcast, this live, just put your name up and give us, where you're from, which country or city you're at, because it's always interesting to learn about, where you're from, where the listeners are from. So, you are working a lot with diversity and inclusion, all of you three. I know that for sure. And if we start with diversity and inclusion, there are, a lot of companies are already working with it. but there are some common mistakes on why D&I programs fails at work. So what would you say is a problem about failing with the programs? Because we have learned that the program can fail, and it's not always, fruitful. So what do you say about that?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, it's easy to get a diverse company, but to actually succeed with the inclusion, that's the hard thing, I think. To actually get people to get more inclusive to each other and actually working actively with it. That I think one of the most common failures.
Yeah,
we try to achieve diversity so much that we actually forget how to include people.
That's really important. And what would you say? How would you do that? If you just give us a tip about how to include people, what would you say then?
For me, I work a lot with active listening to actually bring out the best of people, to let them speak, and let them feel that they are part of the group and actually do what they're best at.
Yeah. So as a manager, it's important to have the active listening with you too.
Not only the manager. It's up to everyone to be active in the listening, not interrupt, and let people know that everything they say is important.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Tip. Yeah, thanks. And Eva, what would you say?
Well, I would say that, of course, it's a big question, but I think from my perspective, I think a lot of D&I initiatives come from a handful of people putting their 2 cents together, and then kind of from a small group of people trying to achieve a lot. Whereas I think if you work top down, you don't really have the commitment of the people who need to follow through on what you want to achieve. So I would say that rather than having a top-down approach, you kind of want to have the opposite. So kind of think grassroots. It's something that we all have to take responsibility for. We have to take responsibility for D&I in society as a whole, and to bring that aspect into your company rather than working from a top-down perspective. That's kind of where I think I can see that a lot of people make it harder than it has to be, because from my perspective, people care. Most people care and want to be a big contributor, but maybe they want to have a say in what to prioritize, what's important to them, what they can see that we can improve, and not have the top level management telling them what we need to improve. So kind of, I think it goes a bit hand in hand with what Martin was saying about active listening. To listen to what your colleagues and what your organization wants to start working with.
Great. Thank you for sharing. And Jacob, would you like to add something here? Common mistakes on why?
I think to make a plan for something, a strategy, independent of if it's innovation or it's diversity or inclusion, to make a strategy is going to fail if you're not living it, if you're not creating a culture to support it. And culture is, as Eva is saying, shaped in everyday actions. So being the example, talking to people, supporting their visions and their motivation, because motivations gives profitability, it gives innovation, it makes the organization and the company stay relevant in the future. and asking people what they want to work with. And I think there will be no one saying that I don't want to work with diversity, or I don't want to work with other people than myself. I want to work only with a copy of myself. I don't think there will be so many saying that.
No.
So in people's core, we have an inhibited, how do you say, you want to search for new dimensions, new perspectives, and you want to develop as a person. And you do that by working with diverse people, different genders, different ages, different ethnicities, different sexualities, etc., different experiences and backgrounds, educations. And by doing that, you build a culture. So instead of having a strategic approach from top down, and now we have a strategy for diversity and inclusion, that's extremely important, but you have to live it in the everyday actions.
Yeah, so it's not enough to have a strategy. You have to, implement and live it in a everyday.
Exactly. Yeah,
great.
And people in the organization is actually the most valuable resource.
Yep.
And if you see the organization as a decreasing creature because of not having different perspectives or different horizons of thinking, then you're bound to fail. You will not stay relevant in the future. So this is a very clear business case, actually. Yeah.
Right. So there is actually a question raised beforehand of this live from Marina Malmberg, and she's the chair lady for the Sustainable Expatriation Foundation. I don't know, Marina, if you are here right now, but you had this question about to you, the panelists, that she says like this, and I quote just, "Are you aware that it takes 14 plus years in Skåne," this is in the south of Sweden, "for a woman with a master degree from abroad and foreign roots to find the first employment? And that's making many expats leave Sweden, which continuously fails to integrate intercultural talent." So this is an issue that she's raising, and I see that Shaggy Hosseini, you write that it's so true. "I am dealing with the same issue even with a master degree from Sweden." So there is kind of a problem here, I believe. So she was asking you, are you aware of this problem? So
yes.
What do you say?
We are.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's horrible. I mean.
Yeah. And so again, being as I'm working in the innovation area, both in startup companies and in large corporations, we're dealing with who to recruit the next time, how to stay relevant, and always working in the dimension of how can we not only take one step further in our organizational development, but maybe 2 or 3 steps in one recruitment. I believe that Eva Boynton is expert in this, but try to expand the organization as much as possible and have that mental view on the human capital that we are actually investing in. And that is one of the things that I'm coaching entrepreneurs that will become leaders, probably of growing companies, being people leaders, people managers, and CEOs of important societal changing companies, to think out of the box. So who could be challenging you and your organization and make it grow even faster, even better, with higher quality?
Yeah.
And not seldom you end up meeting people very likely to be looking like yourself, and challenging that actively, looking for the other genders, other backgrounds, other nationalities is really, it's so easy, but it's very often forgotten.
Martin, I know that you have in your team, you have a very diverse group, right?
Yes.
So could you tell us a little bit about how you have been working with your recruitment strategy? What are your thinking and perspectives?
My thinking is for my group to get a really diverse group because we work with energy questions, and historical, it was mostly white elder men engineers that work with this. And we at Vattenfall we started to think how can we get more diverse, get more women, more other nationalities, diverse on religion, everything. And that's something we had worked really active with. And in my group, I took that in perspective when I started to recruit new people, to get more women, to get a good diverse thing between ages, younger people versus older people, and also with different religions. And we had got a really nice dynamic in our group with a good understanding of each other's differences.
Yeah.
And I think it's a mindset for every company.
Yeah. But Martin, for the audience, if you just picture your group, so how does that look like? How many women are there? How many from other countries besides Sweden and so forth?
In my group, we have 4 women. We have 23 people in my group. 4 of them are women. Historically, we only had 1 or 2 for a little while. I'll have 1 more woman that is incoming, and different nationalities. I think we have about 10 different nationalities at the moment, from the Middle East and Europe. Yeah. So we are in a good way, actually.
Great work. And Eva, if you are the tech recruiter, so what would you say? What is your strategy, and how do you work with including other nationalities and with diversity?
Well, we have a fairly wide range of actions here. So we work with reviewing the language we use in our communication, like the ads, and also like in the communication that we have. We work continuously to review like what our core needs are, so we don't get comfortable in saying, oh, we usually tend to recruit this competence or this profile or so on, but really challenge ourselves to see, okay, how can we adapt? How can we change things? Continuously drive the question of language. In some parts of our organization, you have to speak the local language in wherever your market is. But when you're not dealing with end customers, is it really mandatory, or can we take a different point of view? What else? In the recruitment process, I mean, we have a fairly large volume of candidates. I would say that we're probably at about 7,000 applicants a year. So constantly being self-critical in terms of what we allow ourselves to decide in each step of the recruitment process, who's pushed forward to the next step. So we constantly review if we have objectivity, if we are falling back to gut feeling, and so on. And I think one of the main things that we have been focusing on now is just having the conversation at a company-wide level and inviting everyone to participate in the self-audit in our D&I initiatives. So people from everywhere in the organization has a say in where we can improve, what they have had experiences with, and to really listen to the people. Where are there areas that we have insecurities in? Because insecurities usually mean that people tend to go with what feels like a safe choice rather than maybe the right choice.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of different things going on here to kind of attack this from different angles.
So, yeah, and that's kind of hard, because that's human factors also to
Yes.
have this inbuilt resistance to change. And as you say, Jacob, that you want to, well, you want to play with the same kind of person, but still not. But there is this resistance on to explore new things and getting out of your comfort zone.
We have a really strong and we have a really great company culture that we are really, really happy about. But one of the pitfalls, or could be pitfalls, or loopholes. No, not loopholes. Anyway, one of the risks about having a strong culture is people kind of becoming protective of the culture.
Yeah.
So that in itself can also be something to be aware of, that you should pride yourself on having a really strong and inclusive culture. But in terms of diversity, you kind of need to also say, we have room for more. Our culture doesn't have to stay in this size, in this shape, in this dimension. We have room to expand, because that's our strategy to grow. And we can't grow if we're protective of the culture and striving to keep status quo. So that's also one of the conversations that we need to constantly bring to top of mind, that it's okay if things change. It's fun. Let's learn new perspectives. Let's bring more points of view on board. And also in our onboarding to have the conversation with everyone that you're new and we really want your eyes on what we can improve. So like really empowering everyone to voice their opinions, to feel safe in being critical, I guess, because our critics are also our greatest resource to finding ways of improving ourselves.
Oh, there's some a person writing here. Amazing insights, Eva. Thank you. Very impressed with the attitude Lime has. That's congratulations.
Happy to hear it.
So if we just head into if you could give some tips on how to succeed with the D&I programs in the workplace. You have already touched upon it, but if you would be specific, do you have any tips on how to do it? What do you say?
I think make it again. I'm down to very, very operational, small steps and activities in the everyday work. I think culture is built upon actions and routines and the everyday activities of people, and the ability to be.
If I would challenge that.
Yeah.
Jacob, if I would just challenge the culture thing, who's responsible for the culture?
I myself as a person.
What would you say?
I would say
I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yeah, me myself as a participant in a group. I'm consistent. I am one of the people building a culture. The leadership, the management can write down the culture on a piece of paper, but living the culture is the responsibility of the person. So being working and living an open mindset. For example, diversity. So different backgrounds, different ages. So if I am a white man in the middle ages and I'm a well-educated and heterosexual cis man, right? And I'm working with 10 other of these men, and we say that we are very diverse because we are for equality and inclusion. That's not good enough. I'm sorry.
No. Yeah.
So we have to then recruit. We have to change. We have to leave our seat and make it vacant for someone else to come and sit on that in order to be the change. We have to show example. So recently I said very, very good, because I was not chosen as a consultant in an innovation context because of me being a white man. And I said, this is really, really good. I love your conclusion not to choose me because of my sex, because or age, etc. Because I want my environment. I want the innovation environment to be more diverse.
So how did you handle that? Because that's still, I mean, if I understand it correctly, did they turn you down because you were a
yes,
man?
Because of diversity. And then I said, I love your decision. If you want someone that can talk about diversity in a broader perspective, I would love to do that, because I'm actually following an education in gender equality, and being certified soon. So that is a totally different take, and that was unexpected from them coming from me.
I do agree, because that's also my I mean, this is really interesting. So how did you handle this? What did you do after that?
So
you gave them the positive feedback, and then what?
Yeah, I gave them the positive feedback, and in my eyes, this organization is one step ahead of other innovation organizations.
Yeah.
And I would also say that just being aware that I'm a white man and telling people that, okay, I know that I'm a white man, and I have all the inbuilt privileges that I actually have in society.
Yeah.
Having that said, people can understand that I am open for other people with other backgrounds, with other sexes or ethnicities, etc., experiences, educations, and we can talk about these differences in a much more fruitful way in order to obtain our goals, in order to make activities together.
Yeah, great. Martin, what do you say about this this insight that Jacob just shared? Do you have any?
Yeah, I can agree with him. It's I can only agree. I can say,
well, you know, the gender question about gender equality, it tends to be the women who is you know, driving, forcing that topic. Why do you think that is? Why aren't the men? I mean, you two, Jacob and Martin, you are ahead of that. But why do you think men are not? Are they not being included in those programs, or is it that just why? Where are the men in those programs?
I can say that. I can say that I actually actively wanted to go in with this work, but I think the problem is that men hasn't been included from the beginning, but now we are starting to include more men in this, and especially in our organizations.
Yeah, so that's also about inclusion then. Interesting.
I have a very. I read some article the other day about men traditionally having the power, the economic power, the power in the business, and in society maybe having leading positions, etc. And if you are in the seat of power, if you have the power, you're not questioning the status quo. So the questioning of status quo has to come from somewhere else. And the reflection I read the other week was that, okay, if women, for example, are the ones striving to get the power, all the changes has historically been discussed to be on the women's side of the football field, so to say. Oh, women has to be more driving. Women has to take more action. Women has to show their feet more actively, etc. So everyone is talking about what women should do and how women should behave and all this, instead of talking about, okay, so men, what could we do differently? How could we invite? How could we be more listening? How could we shut up? How could we just like raise from the chair and leave it to someone else for just a while and see if things is changing? Maybe I'm not excluded from the room. Maybe I will just be more inspired, more motivated. Maybe I will have more innovation coming out, more revenue. And the beauty in this is that science now, research, is coming to that conclusion. If you include more people, not only having white male men in the boardroom, for example, or in the steering committee, you will see substantial increase in revenue, in sales, in success.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating how ignorant science can be to activities or decisions can be to science conclusions about the diversity and inclusion's effect on revenue, for example. I mean, I work in the startup community, and 1 or 2% of all invested capital goes to female founders. However, female founded startups are giving more revenue and are facing much less risk in failing. So rationally, it would be much more effective as an investor to put your money in startups with female founders. Then I get the quote that, but it's very hard to find female founders. And I just say that, no, it's not. You have to look, and you have to invite, and you have to create the structure. Just do it.
Yeah.
And and that has started already.
That's interesting. So men has also, I mean, show their guts and dare to leave the seat to be able to invite this, changes and so on. That's wonderful. We actually have one question here, Anna Douglas. I'd love to know your thoughts on unconscious bias related to D&I. What action can be taken to raise awareness within the norm groups? Unconscious bias related to D&I, and what actions can be taken to raise awareness? Who would like to, Eva? Maybe you're raising your hand a little bit.
I'm picking up some steam here. No, I think this is really, I'm not going to say that I have an answer to this, but I think it's a really important question to keep in mind. We had a really interesting open forum that really discussed this, like how do we become aware of the unconscious? It's almost like an impossible loop when you think that, okay, how do I become aware of something that I'm unconscious of? So I guess for us, it really helped to kind of have a group discussion, bring people together from all different parts of the organization to kind of go through, like, not just focus on the recruitment process, but also things like, what happens when you get to the office? Is it easy to find where we are and to enter the offices if you have a disability, if you are not fluent in the local language, and so on? Like, to kind of analyze things from a different perspective, to kind of see, okay, are we missing things here? And then, of course, in the end, it's really, really hard to say what you're unaware of from an unconscious standpoint, but to kind of try to maybe challenge each other in different ways of thinking. So like we found parts of our IT system, like, okay, when you enter this information, you only have these options. That's not inclusive. Or if you get to this office, you don't really realize that there are steps on the front entrance. So if you're in a wheelchair, you have to go to the back entrance and so on. So all these different things came out of that when we had this discussion that really brought different angles together.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's an activity that you have, a discussion, an inclusive discussion about the theme of unconsciousness and unconscious bias and so on.
And of course, we're also working on putting together comprehensive training specifically on unconscious bias, because it's hard to become aware of what you're not aware of. But you can become aware that you are unaware of things, and to take steps to prevent the 10-second decision based on what. So to increase awareness of what it is and what measures we can take to prevent it from just happening without taking any actions. But I'm very aware that it's really complicated when it comes to things that you aren't aware of.
Yeah.
But then again, I think also, like, when I might have my unconscious biases, and then my colleagues who have different experiences, they have other unconscious biases. So we might be able to make each other aware of our different biases by having discussions, challenging each other, and learning more about what we can do together.
Yeah, great. Thank you for those sharing those insights. And Martin, at Vattenfall, you also have a program with your employees, right?
Yes, that's true. We have at Vattenfall, we are having a strategy with a clear goal of how we are going to work with the DNI, and we are having a strategy that relies on how we are living after our principles, which is to be open, an open culture, being active, positive, and thinking of sustainable and environment for all as well. And we have a clear goal that within 2 years we will be more progressive by implementing our DNI system, and we have a program that is built up in 4 modules regarding how to include people more, both in smaller groups and in big groups as well. Meetings, everything. How do we work more inclusive? So I had that in my group recently, the last month, and we had a really good outcome from that. People were actually getting real emotionally involved as well, because you have this unconscious bias, and they got an awareness of the differences. Why haven't I thought about that? Why do I always act like this? And it's like Jacob said, you mostly feel comfortable with people like you, as yourself. And as the more diverse we get in our company in Vattenfall, we will also work a lot with this inclusion, that everyone feels welcome, and we work and have a lot of training regarding this awareness as well.
Yeah. So I mean, being diverse is one thing, but being inclusive is a totally different thing. So there is actually Anna. She's asking about audits. Do you believe in audits, like auditing your organization, perhaps on the theme of D&I?
Absolutely. What is not measured cannot change.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say that, well, auditing, depending on how you do it and etc. I think I just have a comment on the previous question about unconscious bias.
Yeah.
And one reflection about the format that we are sitting in right now. For example, we're in a digital meeting. We have equally squares. We're 2 males and 2 females. What is interesting to think about is that the pandemic has created new possibilities. There has been a lot of different things and a lot of sad things happening as well. But if I may just lift up some of the positive things, is that
absolutely you may.
For example, the male dominance in a room, being a larger person, being having a stronger voice, etc. That's equaled in a digital frame like this. Having the more strict agenda, because a digital meeting creates a better how do you say, preparations and being aware of things. So back to the unconscious bias. Be moderating a digital meeting has built in the ability of people to moderate, to let everyone talk and get at least something, some in Swedish it's called sändningstid. So having them talk and be moderating. So women and men are talking equally much. For example, this is really, really interesting. And also from a diversity perspective, from a nationality and maybe language perspective, many meetings has now been able to be run with participants from all around the world.
Yes, and that's
has
fantastic.
opened up. It has opened up fantastic opportunities for diversity, because you can invite people from the other side of the globe in a meeting, get their perspectives. And historically, that was extremely expensive and costly and consuming a lot of resources. Now you can do it, and you can get new perspectives. It's maybe not only gender, but it's diversity in its essence. And of course, and I like very much.
Technology can help us to get rid of the biases or being more allowing more diversity. That's what you are.
At least some, yes.
Yeah.
At least some. I mean, we have a stable broadband connection, and we have so we'd have a technical threshold that we have to meet, right? And from that perspective, we are not so inclusive or diverse, because we are representing the white, richest part of the world, and we have all these abilities. But still, Eva Boynton said also that being open about that, I'm still aware that I have unconscious bias, but please remember, make me remember that I am a white male, for example. Comment on that. If I do any mistakes, I'm open for you to comment on that. That is also to create a culture. And that is what I'm telling, for example, entrepreneurs building up their companies. Today there are 2 people, 3 people, but in a year they will be 15. So if you are telling your new employees that please remind me if I'm doing something that is unconscious biased, then you're building a good culture. And that could be accounting for a manager at Vattenfall as well, for example, or at any large corporation. And the power of the example is so strong. Again, I have talked about IKEA some time before, but still, I mean the power of example and the be the change is so talking at IKEA as they are recruiting people from all around the world in the local community. So back to the comment that how to get a work as a master degree student, and it takes 14 years. So if more people and more companies would have the approach that IKEA has, it wouldn't take 14 years to get a job.
Yeah.
Sorry to being a little bit long.
No, it's okay. So it was really interesting, and the auditing, as you said, it's what gets measured gets done. That was your reflection about it. Do you audit at Lime or Vattenfall, for example? That's just a question.
What specifically do you mean by auditing? We do have our sustainability reports. We do report in different channels that kind of make their auditing, I guess, of what we are reporting. Or is she specifically thinking about having an auditor come to us? Or I'm not sure how to
We don't know.
answer. But I can say that to me personally, the question of auditing has become more and more of a hotspot. So in terms, I guess, of what's happening in the world with standardized reporting coming through, and just in terms of being able to qualify for tenders and procurement, and all of these different forces are kind of driving us all towards that way of thinking. Like just recently, I had a meeting with a startup where they were pitching me on actually a product in unconscious bias, but they were all men. So I think my own sense of auditing is increasing also from a personal standpoint, but I'm not quite sure how to respond to the question, because I'm not sure what specifically I should answer. But I think it's really interesting, and I'm very happy to see that this is something that's being implemented on a large scale with international directives and regulations coming through.
So, well, we don't know what Anna means here, but at Vattenfall, do you have any kind of maybe follow-up or internal auditing, like looking for, has things been implemented, the goals that we have set up, has it been implemented, and so forth? Do you do that at Vattenfall, for example, Martin?
I don't know if we can call it auditing, but we are measuring everything by my opinion, and then frankly questionings and stuff.
In my opinion,
that's a program, where we measure how good we are at D&I, for an example.
Yeah, so that could be it. I mean, the auditing, like measuring the activities and looking for improvements.
I think as most of the larger companies has employer satisfaction index measuring, well, a couple of times per year, but new tools are now measuring in real time, actually. But to get the support to managers, and you have startups and companies doing that as well, giving tips and support to leaders, how to do this, how to improve employees' motivation, for example, or how to improve team leaders' ability to be more inclusive, for example, or thinking in diverse terms when recruiting. That is maybe the step to be taken next. How to support people in their everyday life, in their thinking.
Right.
I would also say from my experience that even though you have modern tools that maybe sends out surveys weekly to kind of measure commitment and measure sense of inclusion and so on, I would say my experience is that you don't tend to get the same answer in a face-to-face conversation that you do from a weekly survey. So I would, although I love working with really great tools and automating and like being able to do data-driven work, I would strongly recommend the qualitative approach of talking to people and having the conversation and letting whatever comes out be what it may. It might be really uncomfortable to have someone criticize something that you really, really care about. But that's a way to learn and to find new perspective and to overcome unconscious biases, because often the blind spots are in your babies. That's where you really don't want to maybe see what you're missing. So so I do I really enjoy working with the tools as well, but really, 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 like, the conversation is not to be undermined by all these technological advances in the field of engagement tracking and so on.
Right. Thank you. So guys, we are soon heading for one o'clock. So would you like to add something before we end this roundtable discussion? And also, I would like to ask our viewers, if you have a question to this panel, please just write it in the comments field, and we'll try to answer it before we summarize and end up here. But do you have anything else you would like to add, Jacob, Martin, and Eva?
Well, I think I would like to add that I think inclusion comes down to having a culture that is, in essence, democratic, giving everyone a voice, and like, if you have that environment, then inclusion is just a non-issue, kind of. So, like, also being aware of things that are maybe undemocratic, like who has a vote, who has a say in what, who gets to weigh in on different decisions, and to be self-critical about things that might be uncomfortable, but really, like, trying to figure out from a larger perspective, not just in relation to your equality or D&I initiatives, but as a whole, like, as your company grows and develops, like, what's happening with the decision making and different status symbols and like, who has the parking spot next to the building? Like, all these small triggers can really add to the sense of inclusion and so on.
Great. Thank you, Eva.
I have a reflection about moderating and being the facilitator of meetings. Historically, I've been invited and leading a lot of panels and meetings and seminars, etc. Yeah. And as a facilitator, or even as a leader, I would like people to challenge themselves to give away the facilitator or moderator role to someone else, and then see what happens. What kind of points on the agenda would you get? Maybe you would get some new points. Maybe that will lead to some small changes. And by just playing with that thought, it will be obvious that the contrary, not to give away that opportunity, would be not good enough. If I haven't tried it, I cannot say that it's not working. So yeah.
It's like, and if I understand you correctly, you could give away your leadership. So what you mean is be the manager for one day, or like
exactly.
Like
exactly.
Okay.
So and that counts for so many areas. So if you try to be your customer for one day, play with the thought. How would your customer experience be with your service or product, etc. If you were the manager for one day and you're a young newly recruited person, or if you're a developer, how would you, as a developer or architect or whatever role you have in an organization, how would you structure the agenda? What points would you highlight? And would that make any difference to the world? And then all of a sudden you will find yourself in a maybe a little more inclusive environment. You will have a broader perspective of all the people's different mindsets. I mean, we're working with Lego Serious Play, which is a fantastic tool of tactily building things.
Yeah.
And we often open up with a 1-minute exercise. You get 6 pieces of Lego and you should build a duck. And we have been in a room with 40 people building 40 different ducks.
Yeah.
Just with 1 sentence of instructions and 6 pieces of Lego. And that is saying it all. We're all different, and we interpret very simple things in a different way. So that is the essence of inclusion. Try to dare to challenge yourself and open up for other perspectives.
Great. Thanks for that insight. And Martin, do you have anything else? Yeah.
Yeah, I can give a tip, and it's how I work. And I work a lot with creating an open culture within my group, for example, where everybody can feel free to free their superpower to actually increase our productivity and everything regarding to the inclusion. So that's my tip. Creating an open culture within the group, working groups.
And does people know their superpowers?
Hopefully, I bring it out to help them.
To help them. Yeah, that's great. So just before we leave, do you have any superpowers here? What are your superpowers? What would you say?
My superpower is to getting people to get a great smile by dressing out like Superman at work sometimes.
Okay, great. So great, thank you. And Eva and Jacob, do you have any superpowers?
I'm practicing on mine, I think. I'm practicing on listening.
Yeah, practicing on listening. Great, but you're great at thinking out of the box, Jacob, I think. And Eva, do you have any superpowers?
Well, I'm not sure. I think actually my superpower is getting people on board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was I will bring that with me, the superpower thing. Thank you for sharing that, Martin, because that's a good thing also to discuss. What are our superpowers? What are we good at? And to share that with the rest of the group and team. All right, thank you guys so much for showing up and engaging in this conversation about gender equality, diversity, and inclusion in the workplace. I really enjoyed listening to you. I had a great time. I hope you also had a great time. And we have some comments also in LinkedIn. So if you have the time, just please answer those questions also that was raised here during the session. So
feel free also to connect, and if you want to invite to further conversations, that's always great.
Wonderful. Yes, connect with Eva Boynton, connect with Jacob Nilsson, and connect with Martin Horvath. Great people. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. It was great. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.